Welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers here with John Cummins and returning guest Seth of the All N Podast. How are you tonight, Seth?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's been a minute. I'm happy to be here hanging out with you all tonight. I've missed it. It feels like putting on an old leather jacket, a comfortable leather jacket that fits just right, like you never left it back here on RetroLogic. Feels good.
It's good to have you back, man. Hopefully, it also feels like you're putting your hand in your pocket and you find some cash that you forgot you put in that jacket.
Ooh, I like that. I don't know.
That's always the bonus.
Remains to be seen. We'll see how I do at Prices Retro. Maybe I'll find a little cash there.
if you could take the win, like Solo seems to be our guest champion. He seems to be the winner whenever we have him on. So maybe you could take that from him.
We'll see. I highly doubt it, but we'll see.
All right. Well, how are you doing tonight, John? Anything new with you?
Good. Nothing majorly new. I've actually had a quiet week. I haven't really bought a whole lot, but I have been playing to completion Zelda 2 in preparation for next week. So
nice.
Yeah, I've been playing modern stuff. It's a big year.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I played it on NSO, and you almost have to. Like, if you want to complete that game within a month's playing time, you definitely need to do some rewinding. Because there are definitely plenty of enemies that don't have great mechanics as far as how they fight. They don't fight fair. So definitely do a lot of rewinding. There's some places in there that are just downright horrible if you don't rewind.
Yeah.
I've been playing Armored Core 6, of course. Definitely, if you've been paying attention, you know I was looking forward to that. It's kind of why we had a whole show about Armored Core last time.
That's right.
But also Baldur's Gate 3. I have a problem with restarting, but this time I'm restarting with company. So that's actually been a lot of fun playing through it with some friends of the show, actually. None other than Shannon, who was on the show pretty recently, and Nintendo Dad number 4 himself, Tim. So
nice.
It's been pretty fun so far. Yeah. But on that note, RetroLogic is not just a podcast. It is a community of retro gamers, and we have an active, friendly, and free Discord, and that's how I know these great people who I play games with. And we have giveaways, Free Stuff Friday. Just about every Friday, we give away free stuff. That's why we call it Free Stuff Friday. We have contests, and we have a whole family of retro podcasts, such as RetroGroove, a music history podcast, Filmlogic, a streaming and movie and film podcast, and On Topic Retro, a podcast hosted by our very own John Cummins, dedicated to one video game per episode, the last of which I was on for Donkey Kong Country 2, as a matter of fact.
Yes, you were.
And as you just heard, On Topic Retro is doing a focused assault on the entire Legend of Zelda series. So stay tuned to that if you like any and all things Legend of Zelda, because every single mainline Zelda game will be covered in On Topic Retro. Isn't that right, John?
Yes. Hopefully over the course of about a year, we get them all in.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's an
but
undertaking.
But not Link's crossbow training, though, right?
You should do that.
I don't have it. I mean, it's probably something that I could squeeze in somewhere with some of the other... I might even just do an episode towards the end where I just cover all the random things that, don't necessarily fit into a mainline game, but we can get into some of Tingle's games, some spin-off stuff. But definitely every mainline game is scheduled out. I'm going to do them once a month, and should be able to get through them pretty good.
Nice. All right.
I gotta get on that.
Anything else on the horizon for On Topic Retro or your other projects?
Yes. So the Becoming the Hero series is only half of the month. So the other half is still dedicated to Retro Rewind, and the current contest that's going on in game is Metroid Fusion. So that was selected by the community. out of a list of Game Boy Advance games that we put up. And right now, the contest for Metroid Fusion is a time attack. Whoever submits the quickest completion time will win $10 from the shop of their choice. I think I updated you could choose from anywhere. So eShop, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam.
Subway
just
gift
let me
card.
know. Yep,
Yeah.
just a $10 gift card of your choosing, wherever you want it from.
Nice.
And I haven't yet to receive a submission, so it's wide open right now.
Snap.
And since I've been playing Zelda 2, I have yet to go back and play Metroid Fusion. It's on the dock next. I'm going to try to run through it in a couple afternoons. I am not able to win, so I need someone else to submit.
Mm-hmm.
Let Micah know. Nintendo pals. He'll get on that.
Yeah, I advertise it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to take it, right?
Quite all
Like, if
over, yeah.
Throw the gauntlet down, somebody's got to pick it up. You can't deliver it to them, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
so Zelda 2 will be September. So we'll be doing that next month. And then, like I said, I guess it's not every month, it's every fourth week. So we will cover 2 of them in some months just due to how, months work and weeks work.
calendars, man.
Sometimes. That's right. So I guess I can't say it's monthly. We'll actually get to a couple extra ones, but yep, Zelda 2 and then move on through the rest of the series. We'll probably try to find Seth somewhere around Majora's Mask.
Got to. Yeah, I got to get in on some of those for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, elsewhere in our whole family of podcasts, we of course have Filmlogic, who did their summer awards, the Summies 2023. You can catch up on that episode. And RetroGroove is still on break for summer, but now is a great time to catch up on all of season 2 and get ready for season 3 at the end of summer. So stay tuned on those. You can find all of that on our website, retrologic.games. That's all the podcasts, RetroLogic, RetroGroove, and On Topic Retro and Filmlogic, as well as the blog, which just got a new update today. In fact, a new Games from Across the Multiverse just a couple hours ago. So a boiling hot new post for you here, all about Goemon. So you can go check that out. For those of you who do not remember, Games from Across the Multiverse is an ongoing project where I do retrospectives on games that don't exist. So you can read all about Konami. You can read all about this distant alternate universe where Konami still makes video games, and how bizarre that would be. And it all starts with a reboot of Goemon done in the style of Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
Dude, such a brilliant idea. I just read that about an hour ago, and man, so it's such a great idea for like a write-up, and then also like the artwork that you have associated with it and stuff. It's like, so
Yeah,
I would play it.
It's AI
absolutely
generated. I actually switched to Bing's generator for this one. The one I was using before was Novel AIs, and it did not know who Goemon was. It kept giving me like scantily clad anime girls. So
yeah, okay.
I was like, all right, this ain't working.
Nice. Man, I do want to throw out RetroGroove, though. Those guys need to come back. I need some new playlists, man.
Oh, yeah. Playlists with every episode. Also available on the website, by the way. You can find every episode of RetroGroove has an accompanying playlist. They are excellent. If you're somebody who has trouble discovering good music, that's a way to do it for sure. Also, quick mention too, streaming on my YouTube channel. That's Third Strongest Mole on YouTube. Kind of a separate thing. I just pretty much wrapped up Battle Network 3 finally. So you can stop hearing me talk about that, and I'll start talking about Battle Network 4. But I think I'm done with it for now. So I fell a little bit short of 100% completion. Because I made a mistake that I can't really undo without someone else with a copy of the game giving me some help. I've reached out, but I haven't really got anybody who trusts me enough to trade stuff to me so I can trade it back to them. So that's kind of on hold. If I ever manage to acquire these missing chips to do every program advance and get the 7th star for the title screen, then I will live stream it. I will go battle Alpha Omega, the souped up version of the final boss that unlocks when you have all that. Otherwise, I'm moving on to Battle Network 4. Has he played Battle Network 3? Is he very far in it?
No, I think he's going through sequentially. I think he beat Battle Network 1. I think he's on 2 now. But he has it, and he's like kind of slowly chipping away at him. No pun intended. But I
catch him in a couple months.
Yeah, catch him in a few months, and he'll hook you right up. I'll sign him up for that.
There we go. But yeah, there's a whole playlist on YouTube for it. So 13 parts now for Battle Network 3. Probably the longest playthrough so far. But I'm over halfway through the series, actually, because I'm including the spin-offs that weren't in the collection. So I actually already have uploaded complete playthroughs of Battle Network Transmission. Mega Man Network Transmission. There's no battle in that title for some reason. Mega Man Network Transmission for the GameCube. And Battle Chip Challenge for the Game Boy Advance, which are not on the collection. But I played through those as well. So 3 more games to go, and that's it.
Nice.
But that's enough of that. We have, of course, everybody's favorite segment, The Price is Retro. Are you guys ready to play The Price is Retro?
Just born ready.
If this is your first time playing The Price is Retro, here is how we play. I'm going to list off 4 or 5 games, and everyone has to guess how much the lot is worth in total. Whoever is closest to the actual value wins that round. Everyone has a list, and everyone guesses on each other's list. At the end, the player that won the most rounds wins the episode. But watch out for the robot, Deus Guess Machina. He averages all of our guesses together to make his own guess. Seth, you are our guest. Would you like to go first with the first list of the game?
Sure. Now, guys, I know this is highly irregular, but my list has 6 games on it. Now,
that's fine.
I'll allow it.
Now, it'll make thematic sense once my theme is revealed, and this is just a very as I was putting my list together today, the theme will be revealed, and it'll all makes sense when we get to it. So these are all complete in box. Every game that I'm going to list here. The first one is Crash Mind Over Mutant for the Nintendo DS, complete in box.
Okay.
The second game is Power Stone for the Dreamcast, complete in box. The third game is Animorphs Shattered Reality for the PS1, complete in box.
Okay.
The fourth game is Soul Bubbles for the Nintendo DS, complete in box. The Toys R Us exclusive here in the States, Soul Bubbles. I still remember that, blowing it up with a little microphone thing on your DS. The fifth game, shout-outs to Dan, Space Station Silicon Valley for the Nintendo 64, complete in box. Had to do it to him. And then the final game is Time Tracks for the Super Nintendo, complete in box.
Okay.
Who's going first? You or me, Sam?
I'll go first. I got a number out there. I'm just gonna throw out $460.
Okay. We're pretty close because I'm going 500.
Okay. This is going to be an interesting one. The total of my lot is $356.81. I think the robot might have that.
Well, no, he averages, so he'd be at 480.
Oh, that's right.
480. What were you, 500?
Between our guesses.
He's between.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, 480.
Yep, so that one goes to Sam.
That's Sam's. Yeah, so the breakdown here, Crash Mind Over Mutant is 1573, Power Stone is 7403, Animorphs Shattered Reality is 1206, Soul Bubbles is $18.31. Actually cheaper than I thought it was going to be. Space Station Silicon Valley is $151.73. The high dollar one of the lot because it's complete in box. Actually also cheaper than I thought it was going to be. And then Time Tracks, $84.95. And the theme here is Infinity Stones or gems or whatever. So we got mind, power, reality, soul, space, and time. And
Nice.
It was kind of funny because like we literally have Power Stone is just a thing that exists. So
Yeah.
it was like when I was putting the list together, I was like, I really want to have an excuse to put Soul Bubbles on a Price's Retro list and just talk about Soul Bubbles for a second. And then it occurred to me that it could be an Infinity Stone themed list. So there you go.
The RetroLogic Gauntlet.
That's right.
There we
Price's
go.
Retro Gauntlet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was mostly thrown off. Most of those were about what I thought, except I was definitely thinking Power Stone 2 prices. Because I think that one's a lot more expensive.
I was thinking Power Stone was quite a bit more too, and I knew that the Super Nintendo game could be a random.
Yeah,
It's a wild card.
cartridge complete in
Roulette of
box is
prices.
always kind of a tough one.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, my list is nowhere near as intensively thought out, but I'll go right into it. So I've got these are all complete in box. I'll say it again though. Trap Gunner for the PlayStation, complete in box. Sky Gunner for the PlayStation 2, complete in box. Naval Ops Warship Gunner for the PlayStation 2, complete in box. And Knife Edge Nose Gunner for the Nintendo 64, complete in box.
Wow.
I'm going to go just a flat 200 because I don't know what any of these are.
You don't know Trap Gunner is a super interesting game. It's actually
I was way into that.
So
What was it
Sky
like,
Gunner I actually picked up the other day and I haven't played it yet, but I'm sure it's also great. I got a good deal on it.
What was that last one? Like nasal knife gunner?
Knife Edge Nose Gunner. I swear I'm not
Nose
making
gunner.
that title up.
Yeah.
It's like a flight combat game, I guess. I don't know.
I got 160 here.
160 and 200. All right. So
It's gonna be $1,000.
you are both low. So John takes it with the highest guess. Robot is in between you. Total is $249.41. So you're not off by much.
Okay.
But you are both low.
No, we're close.
Naval
Not bad.
Ops Warship Gunner is $16.42 for the PS2 complete. Trap Gunner for the PlayStation 1 complete, $80. Sky Gunner for the
Wow.
PS2 complete, $95. And Knife Edge Nose Gunner for the N64 complete, $57.99.
It's a pretty cheap complete in box N64 game right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Now, Trap Gunner and Sky Gunner are actually both Atlas games. Trap Gunner is
that
very
explains the price
interesting.
tag.
It's like it's like an arena shooter, I guess. And as the name implies, traps are a big part of it. But it's like all about this like one-on-one, like top-down shooter versus mode. It's interesting.
Interesting.
I have to check it out. All right, I guess I'll lose my list for last. You guys will catch on to the theme very quickly. These are also all complete in box. So first I have Marble Master for the PlayStation.
Let's go.
The second game is Koro Rinpa Marble Mania for the Wii.
Yeah, I love that game. What a game.
The third game is Marble Blaster for the PC. And the last game is, of course, Marble Madness for the NES. All complete in box.
Complete in box. Okay. All right. Should I go first?
It is Seth's
think
turn
it's
to
your
go
turn.
first. Yep.
My turn to go first? Okay. Oh, boy. The PC is such a wild card, man. I'm going to go 250.
Okay.
God bless us all.
I'm going to go with my gut, what it added up to, 178. Weirdly specific, but
What your brain added it up
Yeah.
to. So the total for my lot is $70.08.
Come on. Oh, my gosh. So
I hedged a lot on the complete NES game, but I haven't looked at Marble Madness complete ever.
All I need is $70 to fill out my marble collection. Let's go.
That's right.
Oh, man.
So, I brought this list today because I know Seth's been playing a lot of Marble It Up.
Oh, yeah. I love that game. Yeah, I have a big fondness for these marble games. I had no clue that those were so cheap. I'm like, might be going to Mercari here or something.
Yeah, there's 2 of them actually on the Wii. There's another Core Rimpa game on the Wii that's also very cheap.
I love that you shouted out Core Rimpa. What a game. I love that game.
Yeah, it is a really good game. I need to pick them back up. But Marble Master for the PlayStation Complete in Box is $7.42. It's a crime. Core Rimpa Marble Mania for the Wii Complete in Box is $20.
I thought it would be way higher than that. I thought that was like 40 or 50. Yeah.
And then Marble Blaster for the PC Complete in Box is only $12.92. And then Marble Madness for the NES Complete in Box, $29.75. They're all
nice.
Right there. You can get them all complete in box for $70.
For cheap. Oh, yeah.
And the only one of these, I haven't played Marble Blaster, but it looked like a PC Marble Madness. You know, same thing. But the rest of these are knockouts. Like, they're great.
Yeah, dude. I'm shopping right now. This is awesome.
I don't know that we've ever brought up Core Rimpa on RetroLogic yet. Like, this might be a first.
No, that's been on the Keep Nintendo Weird list.
Yeah, it shows up from time to time on whenever you talk about kind of like underrated Wii games, I think. But
yeah,
I don't think we talked about it on the podcast.
I don't think
maybe
we
on
have
Discord
either.
once.
It was one that just kind of slipped my mind until I went to make this list. I was like, man, I haven't played that game in forever. I definitely don't still have it.
It's a great game. I'm so pleased that it was brought up tonight. This is awesome.
So that means that Sam is our winner for the night.
I was not close on either of those guesses, but yeah, I got 2 rounds.
With two wins by being better than the robot.
Being the least wrong.
Yeah,
the least wrong.
That
That also
least strongest mold.
That also puts
That's
Sam
right.
and me at the same amount of wins. For
Oh
us.
man. In the season now.
In the season now.
Yeah, end it now. Dramatic heel turn.
Well, we got to see who is a winner. We can't just have it as a tie. It'd be different if Sam just pulled the lead off.
Well, that's when you make it like a dramatic like pay-per-view event, see who's going to win, you know. Yeah.
So, yeah, we have one guest win, and the robot actually has logged a win.
Nice.
So, yeah. Nope, that's Price is Retro.
All right. Do you have a trivia card for us tonight?
Yes.
And we'll get to our topic because it's a big one.
See if it's any worse than they normally are. In which Lord of the Rings based video game do you play as Talion, a ranger of Gondor, responsible for guarding the Black Gate of Mordor?
Is it Shadow of Mordor?
Yeah, it's Shadow of Mordor, yeah.
That is Shadow of Mordor. They had to like throw that last bit in there.
Yeah, if they it actually would have been decent if they had cut it off, like just where he plays Talion. You might have, thrown some people off with that. But it's like, but when the one where you're a shadow in Mordor.
Mm-hmm.
The second question is Battlefield 5 is a game based on which war?
Ooh, I probably don't know this.
Is that the World War One?
I remember them doing that, going back to World War One.
Is this your final answer?
Let's say World War One. Do it.
I guess so. I know they did that at one point.
It's actually World War II, and I think the one that you're thinking of is whenever they went back and they called it Battlefield 1 again.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They pulled
That's
a Mortal
a
Kombat
Look,
on it.
the one I played was actually when it was just called Battlefield 1942. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
same.
yes.
I played a ton
they
of
were-
that.
They were
Yeah.
good. Like there was a bunch of good ones with the lead up to the newer Battlefield games. You had like Bad Company and like there were just so many good ones in the earlier. I mean, 1942 is mainly like a PC classic for me.
That's the one I played.
I got it on
played a
PC
bunch of that.
from my
That's-
library.
yeah.
So I played it.
Yeah, man.
All right, so that was the first time in a while that the card has stumped anybody.
Leave it to Battlefield.
Yeah, leave it.
Battlefield
Like
and Grand Theft Auto. That's
Grand
what
Theft Auto.
what stumps us.
If I was on that episode, I was driving to my old job when I was listening to that episode, and when y'all didn't know Nico Bellic's name, I was screaming in my car. I'm like, it's Grand Theft Auto 4! Grand Theft, it's the best one!
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're ready to move into our meat and potatoes.
Let's do it.
We'll take a quick break and get to our show topic for the night, which is a doozy and will likely be a two-parter. But we'll be talking about games that we can't play because they were canceled. Welcome back. We are ready for our show topic, which is canceled games. I just wanted to put the spotlight on a couple of these. I put a pretty big list in the show notes. We probably won't touch on all of them, but we will definitely be hitting what we can and looking for community feedback on anything we missed. So keep that in mind. If anything occurs to you or you know some more about some of these games we bring up, let us know. We'd be happy to share it on the next show. But I don't know about you guys, but one of the things I kind of tried to focus on here was those games that didn't just, get canceled and eventually released in on another platform. There's a lot of ports that were canceled, but ultimately, if there was a game, I think Plock, for example, was actually planned for a Genesis port at one point, but we can assume it would have played like the Super Nintendo game.
The soundtrack just wouldn't have been there.
Well, yeah, that is true. Maybe that's why it was canceled. But I wanted to highlight those rare examples of games that are kind of wholly unique, that we actually have some details on. And one of these that came to mind for me right away is none other than Mario Motors for the 3DS. This, of course, kind of near and dear to my heart. It was a project headed up by none other than Yutaka Saito, Ute Saito himself, the guy who brought us Odama, Seaman, Aero Porter, Sim Tower. Just a very super interesting guy. And a thing a lot of people don't realize about him, he was actually pretty good friends with both Shigeru Miyamoto and Satoru Iwata. And they would actually get together and just kind of shoot ideas at each other every now and then. And this was based on one of those. And it would have been probably the only time he would have been able to work with with Miyamoto directly on a game. So that in itself makes it interesting. But the concept, oddly enough, because Ute Saito is a guy who I guess just gets really engrossed in very strange hobbies and gets inspiration from it. So at the time, he was really into sculpting chunks of metal. And he was talking about this with Iwata and Miyamoto, and they decided to make a Mario game where you sculpt chunks of metal into engine parts and put them together to build engines. And that was pretty much the core concept of the game. It's not clear if you would ever race cars with these engines. That was never really discussed as far as how far it got in development. But he gave some details on it as recently as 2018 at a developer conference called Reboot. He couldn't say why it was canceled, but at one point it was intended that there would be a mechanic where you would blow into the DS microphone. That's another thing you'll notice about Ute Saito's gameography is he really likes microphone controls.
Yes, he does.
He actually got a lot of notoriety for criticizing the Wii Remote for not having a microphone on it. That was kind of like a big story at one point, I guess. But yeah, he was always going back to that well, I suppose. And there are only two characters ever confirmed from the early concept art and screenshots, one of which was Mario, and the other was some old guy scientist looking dude. Not Professor Egad, like a new character. But he was supposed to kind of, I guess, be like a tutorial guide to tell you how to do stuff.
So interesting. Well, in the Mario Motors thing is interesting because like that exists already in like the Mario Kart lore or canon or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like we see Mario Motors signs, and like even the like the Mario Kart gift shop at Super Nintendo World is just called Mario Motors. Like that's a thing. And so it would have been kind of interesting as like a Mario Kart spin-off. Like let's take some of these Mario Karts and scrap them down and make sculptures out of them.
Or I'd even see like, I could see them basing gameplay off you building the engine and then like putting it in a Mario Kart and then like put a transfer capability.
Yeah, I mean that's what
it in Mario
is
Kart
assumed, right? That this would be some kind of like cross compatibility
cool.
with Mario Kart, but it just never really went anywhere. But it would have been presumably like a late 3DS release.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, apparently there is a Mario Motors in Houston, Texas. So maybe watch out for that. Whoever's the proprietor of that establishment.
They're probably getting all kinds of, extra attention due to this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at all this like concept art, man. It looks cool. I wish they would have made this.
Yeah, man. That's the idea, You wish you could see it.
You wish you could see it, man.
So I don't know if you guys had one at the top of your personal list of canceled games. You wish you could see the finished product. We don't have to go over these in any particular order.
If we're not going in any certain order, I'll jump in with one that always kind of broke my heart that we never got. And this is a little off brand for me. I don't play a ton of first person shooters. But I really enjoyed Prey when it came out, like the first Prey, not the rebooted Prey that a lot of people know from Arcane, but like the old Prey that was made like kind of it was like a Doom style. I guess people call them boomer shooters now or whatever on like the early Xbox 360 game. And they're making a sequel to it, Prey 2. Like it was announced, they were showing it at E3. You can find like hours of gameplay footage of it. It was like far along and unceremoniously canceled. And I always thought that it looked so cool. Like this idea of like integrating kind of what we would see a game like Dying Light or something become, where you're like in a big open world, you're doing parkour. But in this one, you're in these like alien environments as a bounty hunter, making your way in first person, like kind of looks like the later Deus Ex games a little bit. And he had a lot of cool options of sort of what kind of bounty hunter you would want to be. Like you could capture, your target and choose to interrogate them. Some of them would try to like bribe you to like let them go and stuff like that. And, there's like plenty of like actual gameplay. Like the game was far along. I don't know exactly what happened, but I was just watching some more gameplay of it earlier today. And I was like, man, this would have been so cool. I would have loved to see this, come to light. So, yeah.
I think I played the original Prey. I didn't play the newer one.
I have no familiarity with either, so...
I love them both. I really enjoyed both. The first one, though, was like kind of a... like it was like a Doom style. It was kind of even like the naming scheme. It's like Doom, Quake, Prey. Like it's kind of that word. Single syllable. Yeah, it was even trying to kind of fit into that scheme. But it had this like weird, interesting story where like the main character actually is Native American. They had like a interesting kind of like his sort of like heritage fed into it a little bit. Like whenever you would die in the game, rather than just getting a game over screen, he would be taken into like this kind of like spirit realm, and like he had this like spirit like bow and arrow, and you shoot down these little like dragons on your way back to like being resurrected, and the more you shot down before you got resurrected, the more health you would come back with.
It's pretty cool.
a neat little like concept, and the intro is kind of famous. The opening of the game takes place like in this bar, and the main character is like hanging out with his girlfriend. Aliens come, and it's playing like "Don't Fear the Reaper." It's like a really cool intro. The aliens kidnap his girlfriend. He's got to go after them and stuff, and it's a really cool game. And this sequel, like, again, just watching the gameplay of it, like they had so many systems in place. There's a really high level of polish. This is back in like 2010, 2011 when they're talking about this. And it's still kind of impressive to watch it today. And it wasn't like smoke and mirrors. It wasn't like a Killzone kind of thing where, like they had this playable, like people were playing it, GameSpot, IGN, like at E3 and stuff. Yeah. Like, so I don't know, man. It would have been neat. I would have liked to see it. And again, I liked Arcane's Prey, but it was a very different. It was kind of a more heady, immersive sim kind of style.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looks cool.
The one that jumps off the list immediately to me that I wanted to play, and I remember seeing plenty of footage of it and just lots of talk around it, was Kirby's Tilt and Tumble 2. It would have been a GameCube game that had interactivity with the Game Boy Advance, similar to Four Swords or Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. And it was really neat because in the tech demos that they showed off, like you would be playing on your GameCube using the Game Boy Advance as a controller, and you would be moving Kirby around in the stages up on the screen. And then whenever he would fall down like a little hole or like a corridor or something, Kirby would, the gameplay would move to your Game Boy Advance, and then you would play down there, and you would have like a little mini game or something you had to do to get Kirby back up to the GameCube, to the TV. So it was something that, even the footage they showed, like it was very far in development when they canceled it. Yeah. I don't know why it never did make it, to go gold or even come out. But it's also something that I'm really surprised that we didn't get whenever the Wii U came around, because it would have made like perfect sense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. As I was kind of compiling stuff together, there's a lot on the GameCube, it seems like. And I don't know if that's the combination of the GameCube itself kind of underperforming and rushing the Wii out, and several projects getting axed. There is also the acquisition of Rare by Microsoft, which led to a lot. I've kind of just got those listed in their own category here. There was a Donkey Kong 64 sequel planned for GameCube, as well as Banjo 3, though I think at least some of those elements were reused for nuts and bolts. You also have stuff on the GBA, like Diddy Kong Pilot, which was remade into Banjo Pilot. A game called Diddy Kong Racing Adventure, which was like a sequel to Diddy Kong Racing, and weirdly enough started at a different studio, and then Rare took it on and then abandoned it. So, and of course, Perfect Dark Zero. I even found some concept art from a game that was very early in development before it was dropped, that was allegedly going to play a lot like Monster Hunter, and that looks really cool. They've got this really cool like snake-tailed lion robot monster there that just exists.
The concept art appears to be similar to like a Shadow of the Colossus type deal, where that's how big the monsters
they're huge.
So some of this stuff is just interesting. Like the GameCube point of comparison is pretty interesting. It did feel like a lot of that stuff's kind of like in flux. I was reading about some of the projects that like Retro was working on before they eventually would go with like between Prime and then like and then like Donkey Kong Country and stuff. Like Retro was working on like a Chic game at one point.
Yeah, Retro had a number of projects they had to abandon to make Metroid Prime. One of which there was an RPG called Raven Blade that there was some info out there on, as well as Thunder Rally, which was a car combat game basically designed to compete with Twisted Metal. Also intended for the GameCube.
Oh, man.
And then Perfect Dark Zero would end up coming out later.
Yeah.
Kind of retooled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also not doing so great.
And that's another thing too. And now I think there's even another one like in flux. Like I think they're
there's some kind of Perfect Dark reboot happening.
Yeah,
at least intended to happen.
It's strange, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is funny. Like you brought up the point of like why didn't some of this stuff make its way to Wii U? Like I guess they were just kind of evaluating like financially when the GameCube, like a lot of things were in flux. It feels like it was a bit of a scramble of like, yo, we need to like cut back on some of these resources, and full steam ahead on what would become the Wii, I guess, because that's the only explanation I can think. You look at this Kirby Tilt and Tumble 2 gameplay, like John brought up, and like this thing looks far along, man. It
looks like we should be playing it right now. That's how far.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Really crazy to see how far some of this stuff gets before it.
Well, I think too by that era you started to see, because it's a lot harder to find a lot of details on games from much earlier that were canceled because they're just usually they didn't get a lot of info out until a game was pretty much ready to go gold. The ones that do, it's usually ports, something that came out on SNES or Genesis first and was intended to go to other platforms. There's a couple that I thought were interesting. One is that Square was making an Aliens game based on the film for the Famicom Disk System, which likely would have been ported to NES for international market. And it was a pretty solid looking. There's like a pretty full prototype out there of it on the internet. Kind of run and gun Mega Man style game. Kind of reminds me a lot of what's it called? I'm blanking on it. The Sunsoft game, that was supposed to be a Terminator game. Journey to Silius. Reminds me a bit of that. Just in the overall features of it. As well as Sunsoft has a game called Sunman, which they did confirm was meant to be a Superman game. And then I guess the agreement with DC fell through, but it was basically going to play a lot like their Batman games.
That's funny. The Aliens game, though, kind of reminds me of lots of licensed software that gets made in Japan based off of, American, just American IP. Mm-hmm. A lot of times the games are not anywhere near what...
Yeah, but it still gave us some pretty good games. Really, hey, I like Super Star Wars.
Especially on the Famicom.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but there's lots of Famicom games, man. They would buy the licensing for these games and then just make whatever they wanted. You didn't even have to get authorized, before it went out. They would just make stuff.
One of the other ones I found quite a bit of info on, which is very interesting and kind of led me down a rabbit hole, is something called Super Mario Spikers. As you might guess, this was meant to be a follow-up to Mario Strikers. It was going to be developed for the Wii by Next Level Games, the same team that made the Strikers games, and was intended to be a hybrid volleyball and wrestling game. And now the interesting thing is where the wrestling comes from is they were really attached to this other canceled game called WWE Titans Parts Unknown, which was this very crazy take on pro wrestling. Very stylized. The concept art showed there'd be stages you were going to wrestle on rooftops and in castles and over pits of lava and stuff. There were intended to be playable animals or anthropomorphic characters. You could wrestle bears and crocodiles and wizards and stuff. This looks awesome. And so it seemed like a lot of it is they were really attached to their work on that and wanted to carry it over to this Mario volleyball wrestling hybrid game, which was eventually axed supposedly because Nintendo thought the game's violence was too realistic for something featuring Mario characters, which I kind of get. Like, I don't know if I want to see Mario putting Peach in a submission hold. Like, that's very wrong,
Yeah.
but also I kind of do.
Yeah.
Well, because the inverse is true also. Like, you know, but on the other hand, I do kind of want to see Peach put Mario in a headlock. You know? Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, as Strikers got further along, like, it's a lot more aggressive than what it used to be. And like the animations are definitely a lot more.
Yeah, the art style is pretty like rough and tumble, right? Like, it definitely
Yeah.
has a little bit of hard lines and that kind of thing. They definitely like they look mad when they're playing.
But
that,
I think Strikers, the team at Next Level that made Strikers was willing to kind of push the envelope on Mario, and I guess this is when they pushed the envelope a little too hard.
Too far.
Went too far. Well, now I wonder, because Nintendo bought them, and like they're like a, you know, they're in the family now, and I wonder how much rope that allows them, or if it allows them less. You know, like if it's the kind of thing where is Nintendo just kind of over there being like, hey man, Luigi's Mansion 3 sold really well, you better get to work on Luigi's Mansion 4, you know, or whatever. Or are they, now that they're kind of in and they've proven themselves and Nintendo's kind of put a ring on it, do they give them a little bit of wiggle room to make something kind of crazy? I would hope so, but I don't know.
They're probably actually working on the port for Dark Moon.
Probably.
In reality.
But you got to imagine that's probably a small, like that's probably, I mean, it can't be all hands on deck on that, you know? Just a port of Dark Moon.
I don't know how many people are in that studio now.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I guess it's impossible to know. Next Level Games. They got to be pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, Luigi's Mansion 3 was a big game.
132 employees, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely working on something else.
Which, I mean, you know, it feels like longer ago than this, but Mario Strikers Battle League did just come out last year.
It did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is pretty.
It really does feel longer than
like
that. Yeah. It's because so many other games have come out.
I would have.
If you measure time in games, it feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah, that's probably barely a year old too. I think it was last June, like or June 2022.
It was summertime. Right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what is happening? Yeah, June 10th, 2022. Sure enough. Wow, man. Yeah. Well, I would like to see, in a perfect world, I would like to see Nintendo give, you know, some of their first party studios like more, you know, more wiggle room to kind of do the things that excite them. And hey, I mean, maybe Luigi's Mansion 4 is what excites them. You know, I mean, whatever the case may be, I hope they get to kind of spread their wings now that they're in the family.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like they should be able to still work on what Nintendo expects from them, but also, you know, kind of have that side project, that passion project at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Luigi's Mansion 3, I think, sold better than any. That game sold like 13 million units or something like that. Crazy.
It's also on the Switch, which kind of seems to
Switch
do that
effect
to games.
Yeah. That Switch effect, man. Well, I hope we get to see Spikers someday. I'll take it.
Maybe.
I'll shout out. So this is a game that, now y'all, I don't often get so excited by a game's announcement that I like physically. I can be more of a subdued person. I don't usually physically react to an excitement or to an announcement like with excitement, like jumping off of my couch or anything like this. But when they took the stage at E3 and announced that they were rebooting Phantom Dust for Xbox One at the time, which is one of my favorite games of all time for the original Xbox, I lost my mind. Like, I truly lost I was so excited for this. Just this idea that like this game that I picked up on a whim because it was $20 and I was like a broke, you know, teenager, off of the shelf at GameStop. Like, and I just fell in love with that game and its world and the fact that just the idea that it was like getting some kind of reboot, that the series still had life in it, was so exciting. They showed off like the CG trailer. Turns out there was a lot of like drama behind the scenes. Like Microsoft had commissioned, or this team to make like a vertical slice demo. They made it. Before letting them know that they wanted to actually move forward with the project, Microsoft went ahead and announced it by commissioning another team to make the CG trailer that looked nothing like the demo that they had made. So there was like all this drama going on behind the scenes. And so, long story short, they canceled the reboot, but as a make good, they ended up releasing the original game for free. Like not even on Game Pass. You can get the original Phantom Dust for free on any Xbox, PC, whatever. And what's interesting is that game was so far ahead of its time. It's made by Yukio Futatsugi, the Panzer Dragoon guy, and his team. It was so far ahead of its time, the textures that were already there back on the original Xbox were 4K textures. So when they released the game with just the uncompressed files, they were already in 4K. They didn't have to do anything to it. So that game is out for free in 4K with online support. It's nuts. So, and it's a special game. It's like this weird deck build. It's like if like Dragon Ball and like Ghost in the Shell had a baby that was like a deck building arena fighter. It's crazy. I absolutely adore Phantom Dust.
Original Xbox would have such loved a blind spot for me. I need to know about these things.
Oh, man. It's so good. I love Phantom Dust very much. I have my original copy still.
The physical copy is kind of hard to find nowadays.
Yeah,
for Xbox.
Yeah, it went up. There was a time where you could get it for cheap, and when it came out at such a weird spot because they had all these issues releasing it in North America, I guess, and so when they finally released it, it was $20 brand new. Like that's the only reason it even entered into my purview is because I could afford it when I was like a broke teenager. So like $20 has cool box art. I'm down, and that game blew me away. It's this weird like post-apocalyptic story where like the world is kind of locked in place and this like dust is giving memories of the world that we lost, and so the soundtrack is this weird like industrial Matrix kind of remixes of like classical music like Beethoven and Bach and stuff. I love that game, man. It's so good. So yeah,
I think we have to talk a little bit about Scalebound at least.
Yeah, so what's the deal with Scalebound? I don't even know anything about it.
So this is not a game that I was super hyped for whenever they first kind of started talking about it. But kind of the further they got and the more they were showing of it, and it was starting to look like a game that I wanted to pick up. And this is a game that's by, it would have been a platinum game for Xbox. It was kind of commissioned by Xbox to make this game. And this is kind of whenever they had first started up platinum. And this game kind of got beat out by Bayonetta, I guess, originally, from whatever I can tell. They had a few games that they had ideas for, and then whenever they started making games, Bayonetta was the one that kind of, I guess, took off as the game that they would make first for their studio. And then development for Scalebound wouldn't actually start until way later, like Xbox One, PlayStation 4 era is whenever they finally had time to try to make this game. And then this is when it was actually commissioned by Xbox to have it made. And then it just kind of fell apart over time, and I think Xbox kind of quit supporting it from what I could tell. It's kind of a shame. Like, it looks like a really good... the stuff that I've seen looks like something I would want to play. It's you kind of have a bond between the main character and a dragon, and if either one of you dies, you both die, essentially. And it's like an action RPG type game, similar to Bayonetta, I would imagine. That seems to be what they make.
It's weird, man, because like visually, like the way that the world looks and stuff, it looks kind of generic. Like it just kind of looks like, generic fantasy or whatever. And like the protagonist is basically Dante from Devil May Cry, just like silver haired, kind of angsty dude that, has headphones on and listens to music while he slays monsters or whatever. But the concept that kind of like linking with the big, dragon concept was kind of there and interesting. And what's funny is after this game got canceled, they would kind of end up working that mechanic into Bayonetta 3. Like, yeah. Bayonetta 3, that's like a major part of the gameplay.
Even
is your infernal
into
demon.
Astral Chain, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. I guess more into Astral Chain, like that's essentially the main mechanic, right?
Yeah. It's a key part of it.
Yeah.
Just not a giant dragon.
Yeah, no, Bayonetta 3 was kind of a surprise that they had that element where you could just fight, as the larger being. Where in the other games, they're definitely present, but you're not controlling them. So.
They're for like set pieces. In Bayonetta 3, you can trigger them whenever you want and just like morph into just like these kaiju battles, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's neat to kind of see that like at least they got to, I guess, repurpose some of those ideas. But I do know that there's like a little bit of hurt. Like Kamiya was very attached, I guess, to Scalebound for whatever it's worth, and I think he was even saying like he was like trying to get him to pick it back up, but it doesn't seem like that'll ever happen.
And I mean, there's definitely some dedicated people out there to that game. Like there was plenty of people that were really upset that it didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I still hear about it in communities that I hang out in.
Yeah. It is interesting to see, though, how a lot of these canceled, some of those concepts get repurposed into later projects, even ones that aren't directly related. So maybe Next Level will be able to put some wrestling moves in the next Luigi's Mansion. You never know.
That'd be so sick.
Luigi suplexing
even
a
if it's
ghost.
just in a boss fight. Even if it's just in a boss fight, because they always have those like cool, unique bosses. Like,
dude,
just
they could have the ghost of Macho Man be
or like a haunted luchador mask. Luigi puts it on and gets possessed. Writes itself.
Excellent. Like that'd be so good. I'd be so into that.
It's like a haunted arena for wrestling matches.
Oh man, you got Eric's listening to this right now, freaking out.
They need to make it.
Yeah.
So one of the other ones I want to touch on, because of course I'm a big Mega Man fan, is the death of Mega Man in general. A lot of Mega Man games canceled around the same time. Most people focus on Legends 3 because that itself was a troubled, long-awaited sequel. I'm not as attached to the Legends series. I've never played Legends 2. So I wasn't so much looking forward to Legends 3 as the other game that was announced at the same time, which was Mega Man Universe, which was basically promising to be Mario Maker for Mega Man before Mario Maker existed. So there was some pretty good stuff shown for it, especially the ability to play as a wide variety of characters, which did seem really cool. Another canceled project was the third Mega Man ZX game. It was confirmed to be in development. There was even a title was floated as they kind of cryptically said it's not ZX3, it's ZXC, without elaborating on what the C stood for.
For reasons.
But we at least have something of a title. It was even floated around that it was going to be it was going to be an intermediate. It took place between 1 and 2. And you were supposed to play as Prometheus and Pandora with missions that had time limits. That was talked about. I remember digging into it at the time because after I finished ZX Advent, I was like, "What's next?" Because that game ends on a cliffhanger too. Mega Man developers like to do that and never deliver on sequels.
Never get a chance to make the next game.
Yep.
Man, so unfortunate. I had a friend that I worked at GameStop with who, when the 3DS, like I don't know, couple months, whenever it was they announced Legends 3 with that prototype video, which is still up apparently. It's still on the Capcom USA YouTube channel still has a video of Mega Man Legends 3, and I showed it to my friend before the 3DS came out, and Mega Man Legends is his favorite game of all time, and he immediately he was like, oh, like ring me up for a pre-order right now. Like I'm getting he bought a 3DS on day one because of the promise of Mega Man Legends 3.
And that's the thing too. It was supposed to, in like an unprecedented way, involve the community for feedback. Like they were going to do multiple demos, and it just all fell apart.
It says here in this original, in this video, I'm looking at it right now, download the title at the launch of the Nintendo eShop on the 3DS. Like this is what sold him. He's like, oh, I'm day one, like bought, and at like the high price that the 3DS wasn't launched too. It was worth it to him.
Insane.
Pour one out.
Yeah.
I haven't played Mega Man Legends 1 or 2. I have poor man's Mega Man Legends. I have Mega Man 64.
Yeah, that's what I played of Mega Man Legends. Maybe that's why I'm not as attached to it. I don't know.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It wasn't for me. I had it and played what I could of it, but I have a feeling that if I would have had Legends on PlayStation, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah, it doesn't like super hold, the vibes hold up. It's one of those, like the vibes hold up really well. The art, the music, like that kind of stuff, but the gameplay is kind of rough to go back to.
I think it sounded good on paper, and then whenever they kind of got it out there, it wasn't exactly what it cracked up to be.
Yeah.
So were any of you guys excited about StarCraft Ghost?
Oh yeah, I remember when that was floating around. StarCraft Ghost.
I remember I had a subscription to I think it was like an unofficial official N64 magazine, and there was like a big article in there about how they were going to port this game to N64, and it was going to be like a similar to GoldenEye, like in appearance and all this stuff. And I was still playing StarCraft and Warcraft and Diablo. I was like just fully engrossed in Blizzard at that time.
Sure.
And Blizzard's known for very long development cycles for games as it is, and then like hearing about this game and then waiting a while, and then people are like, well, maybe it's not going to come, and I'm like, it's Blizzard, it takes 10 years. Like we'll give them some time. It was a pretty big punch to the gut when that one didn't actually end up coming out.
Yeah, they it's interesting. I really liked the idea of like another game in the StarCraft universe, because like I'm not the world's biggest RTS guy. There was a time like when I was younger where I played more of them than I do now, but the notion of another style of game in that universe was always really cool to me. So this kind of like stealth third person shooter sort of thing they were floating around for this. There's gameplay you can look at for it. It seems like it was, at least fairly well along, or well enough along to get a vertical slice demo at least. And would have been cool, man.
It's kind of funny, like off of the heels of this cancellation, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, but Command & Conquer put out a first person shooter that was like pretty soon after the StarCraft Ghost stuff was going around, and it was not good. Like I just remember picking it up on PC and being excited. I'm like, well, at least this one came out, type deal, and played it. I was like, well, maybe this is why StarCraft Ghost didn't come out. After playing it.
So that's the thing.
Realize it doesn't work.
It can look as good as it wants. The concept can be as good as it wants, but it has to play well.
It's got to be fun.
Well, and that is the thing about the canceled games, is sometimes it's easy to project our desires onto them because they're unfinished, and we just kind of fill in the gaps with exactly what we want them to be. Or especially if it's tied to, an existing IP that we like, just assume, it's going to be great because it's going to be just as good as this, but there's going to be more of it. I don't know how many, I don't have too many listed here, but I don't know how many, open world action RPGs there were that promised people the moon and then just didn't even ever release. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, making games is hard, and making games fun is even harder.
And promising your game's going to be really good is easy.
Yeah. There's a lot of games, like talking to developers who are like, the game didn't really take shape until like the final 6 months or so. Like the actual gameplay loop, like the fun of it wasn't really there until we were really almost done. You know, that you hear stories like that all the time. So a lot of games don't even get the opportunity to reach that place because it takes a lot of time to even get them off the ground floor, and they start to hemorrhage resources and things. And even a big company like Blizzard can't afford to keep something like this on the vine forever, you know? So.
They'll try, though. Blizzard is like the longest development cycle for games like ever.
Yeah, if they're sure bets, right? Like they're pretty confident. Like if they release a new Diablo game, it's probably going to sell pretty well, right? But like this kind of StarCraft game that is not a normal StarCraft game is like, it's a little bit of a risk, and I like it when big companies take risks, and I wish that they would do it more often. But you know, that might not have been the smartest thing for them to release that. Who knows? So.
That's very true. They definitely like to play it safe. That's why we have a Diablo mobile game.
That's right. Don't take too many risks. God forbid.
Now, of course, you can still fumble the launch of those games or the announcements, apparently.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Remember, everybody's got a phone.
Is this an out of season April Fool's joke?
Yeah.
That kid.
Oh, man. That was like the best part of that, actually. It was like just seeing that announcement and like them just kind of like, oh man, what's happening?
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the games I thought about for this, it is not technically canceled, but come on. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is not coming out.
Oh yeah.
Like there's no way.
It just isn't. When I don't even, this is probably in like 2017 or 2018 or something, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt got on stage and said, hey, we want the community to submit like art and assets for the game. I was like, oh, this game is in a bad way right now.
Well, and it's a great example of why I really am not impressed by cinematic trailers. When that's because they made a big deal out of it. It was a long cinematic trailer, but it was just cinematics. It's all it was. It was a movie. Yeah, it was a movie clip.
Yeah,
I'm still signed up to the website for like updates and stuff, and like they're supposed to be sending out a demo at some point. It's like, I just signed up for the fun of it. I don't ever actually expect anything to mature out of it, but.
They showed like, and I don't even know if it was actually gameplay or not, but the most recent update we have on it is from 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, you know, it's snippets of like what looks like gameplay, but who knows if it actually is. And it's like this big, you know, open world, very ambitious. And it's like, there's just no way this is going to come out. Like Beyond Good and Evil 1 is a cult classic. Right, like people, but it's not as if that game sold, you know, 50 million copies or something, you know. And this looks neat, but like I just cannot imagine a reality where this actually sees the light of day. And so much of that team has gone now. Like Michel Ancel, I think, is like retired in general. I think from video games, isn't he? Like he's just like dipped out.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So.
There's definitely some more examples of this that, like, I'm pretty sure these games are not coming out, but I have been proven wrong on some of them. I was kind of wondering about Mineko's Night Market for a little while.
For a minute there, right?
Yeah. There's also the ones that you have to ask, is this really the same game as we were told about?
Right.
Like, Metroid Dread for Switch, I'm sure has some similarities with the initially planned Metroid Dread, but, you know... Given the amount of time between the first rumors and the stuff that was even in the game, so it's not just rumors. And
I'd be willing to bet they only share a name, and that's.
I think it's more a case that they decided to make a new Metroid game. They're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we called it Dread, just to kind of deliver on that?
This will freak people out.
And there is, because you go back and there is some stuff that was talked about as far as like having a stalker enemy, but. That's really all you can really point to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is funny, though, because you're right. Like, if we were recording this episode before Metroid Dread was announced, that's a game that might have come up in the conversation. You know,
and it'd still arguably be interesting to see that original Metroid Dread if it could have gotten made. Now, that was supposedly due to technical limitations that was canceled.
Would be interesting. Although I like the one we got.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was.
Enjoyed it.
Oh, man, it's such a good game.
So I tried to put the focus again on stuff that wasn't just a move to another platform or something. So I won't spend much time talking about Earthbound 64. I basically consider Mother 3 to be Earthbound 64. Now, I know from the early stuff, like there's stuff that shows up in those early screenshots and things that wasn't in Mother 3. But like you can tell, like Flint is there. Like these are characters that got reused from Mother 3.
Yeah.
What I did want to mention, though, is there was an untitled Earthbound game in development for GameCube by Monolith Soft, the Batten Kaitos team, actually. Possibly a remake, because the screenshot I saw showed a battle screen against what appears to be Pokey's mom, Lardna Minch, which, you know, if you're reusing characters, it might be a remake, or I guess it could be some kind of direct sequel, which Mother 3 isn't really. Mother 3 is kind of, it does pick up there's a couple characters that show up, but there's some, you know, it's pretty separated more like from the world of Earthbound.
Yeah, that's the one where it was going to be like clay.
Yeah, like clay art style, which is a callback to the player's guide. Had all those clay models photographed in it that were used to actually model the enemies.
It's kind of funny to kind of go back to the N64 one a little bit. The team that did Pokemon Stadium is actually involved with doing the graphics for that game, because I guess they were having troubles moving to 3D as a studio. So they were like, hey, these guys... like
some might say all these years later on the Switch, they're still having trouble moving to 3D, but...
Yeah. Well, no, in this case, it was the team that was making Earthbound was having trouble. Okay. So they consulted
conceptually
the Pokemon company to do their 3D graphics.
Oh, man.
Which is kind of funny because, you know, fast forward to today, yeah.
Bring in the experts. We got to get top men on this.
To be fair, Pokemon Stadium for its time was fantastic. 3D models,
amazing
animations.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, some might say that they haven't moved beyond that.
Yeah, arguably.
Arguably. Y'all, we got the here on this list. I was very delighted to see the Wii Vitality sensor.
Oh yeah,
was here on this list. I had to be. Got to talk about this, man. I was so, you know, it's a weird idea. Like this notion that you have this little thing that would like clip onto your finger, detect your pulse and your heart rate with the, I guess the mission of it was to get people to live healthier lives, relax more, sort of, you know, develop your resting heart rate or whatever the mission of that thing was. I would have loved to see what games Nintendo would have made for that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It did always seem like a bit of a solution in search of a problem kind of device.
Yeah.
The game that was supposed to the one game confirmed to use it, I believe, was intended to be titled Wii Relax. I'm not sure how that is a game necessarily. Like, it's kind of a strange...
right up there with Wii Music.
Yeah.
They would do stuff like that.
But in a lot of ways, you have to acknowledge, like, I mean, I've got a Fitbit on right now. The Wii Vitality sensor was ahead of its time. Like, wearables are everywhere today. And a lot of them monitor heart rate.
But even, like, man, like, I could even imagine, like, you could make a really cool horror game that detects, like, your heart
now, that was never planned, but that's probably something that would approach more a typical game.
Third party. Yeah. Man, that would have been neat, though.
Did they ever show what it looked like?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That would be such a weird, like a horror game where, like,
you just have a little clip.
But but like if your heart rate goes up, like the monster finds you, so you have to like calm yourself.
That'd be sick.
Except that's what's making you freak out. So That would be super
it's like
hard.
a quiet place or whatever. Yeah.
If your heart rate goes up, like it starts like putting like sweat effects down like your screen, like you're panic sweating.
I love thinking about
well,
that.
Yeah,
like,
even if there was like an Eternal Darkness kind of game where like the higher your heart rate is, like that was like your sanity meter.
Your sanity. Yeah, there's so many cool. It's a really like weird little concept that like they're always really good about that. Like they would put out that stuff and just like figure out, interesting little use cases for it. And I think more than the device, because the device is one thing, it's just a weird little accessory. But like, I just would have loved to see how they would have used that, And I mean, like now you play Ring Fit and you put your thumb over the IR sensor and it can detect your pulse.
Yeah.
But man, it would have been neat. I would have liked to see like the way, third parties would have utilized that. Like, what can you do with a heart rate with a little pulse monitor? It'd be sick. So, yeah, RIP. I would have liked that a lot. It would go for like $1,000 today. It would be one of those things.
Oh, I'm sure.
It'd be the white glove from like the N64 era.
Oh man, yeah, I would have liked to see that one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting thinking about the platforms that seem to have a lot. Obviously, platforms that didn't do well see a lot of canceled games. Though a lot of the times, what I found is a lot of those were ports. I didn't see too much that was. Of course, I didn't dig forever. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and I did prune out some of the things I just didn't think were particularly interesting. But I didn't see a whole lot for, like, say, the Sega Saturn.
Sure.
Or even the Dreamcast, though the Dreamcast had a few. The one that stood out to me was Turrican 3D. I've been getting into the Turrican series. Very interesting that they chose the Dreamcast as their approach to their first 3D game. All side-scrollers up to that point. But one that definitely you just have to feel for, because they could not pick a winning horse in the console race, is a game called Varuna's Forces. This was developed by a company called Accent Media. It was going to be published by Atari. It was planned for the Jaguar CD initially, because Atari. Obviously, when that fell through, they moved to the 3DO, and then the Dreamcast and Saturn, with a PC version also planned. Eventually, didn't release anywhere. That collection of systems, with the exception of PC, is just like, yeah, you did not pick the best places to go for platform that's going to have a lot of people.
I don't even know how many games were released for the Jaguar CD, add-on, but I guarantee it was less than 20.
Yeah.
You picked the wrong platform.
But it's kind of a shame because it sounds interesting, at least on the face of it. It was going to be like a hybrid third-person shooter and strategy game that actually had on-rail shooter segments at the beginning of each mission. So I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. And there was quite a bit of, featured in several magazines because it got pretty far along before switching platforms and having a lot of stuff that had to be redone, and then again doing the same thing.
Well, yeah, you can't develop a game that way. Just keep jumping. We get pretty good ways into it, and it's like, oh well, we're going to Sega Saturn now, and then that doesn't pan out, and then it's trying to move to Dreamcast. I mean, with some of those things, depending on how the system's architecture works, you might have been starting over from scratch at that point in the development.
Yeah. And of course, there's quite a few scrapped 64 disk drive games. We already mentioned a few of them, but that, of course, was an add-on that never really took off. So a lot of that got moved to GameCube, if at all.
Yeah, like the vast majority. I was trying to find. I don't remember what it was called. There was like a game that like a canceled game that basically wound up becoming Animal Crossing. I can't put my finger on what it was called. Like it
I know
became.
What you're talking about.
I keep wanting to call it like Onion or something like that. Like it was like a one word.
Oh, Cabbage
thing.
It's Cabbage.
Cabbage.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yep.
I don't think I put it on the list, but yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know why it's just called Cabbage, but yeah.
And it was also a 64 game, though, right?
Well, I mean, so was Animal Crossing in Japan.
Well, Animal Crossing was a 64 game.
It was on, led by Itoi, actually, apparently. Very cool.
There we go.
Yeah, I was thinking about that for whatever reason as y'all were talking about the 64 DD. I was like, I cannot remember what this is called. That's it. It's Cabbage. Yeah. I kept wanting to call it Onion, but I was like, it's not Onion.
That would be a Pikmin game.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that made me think of Onion Games, which is made from like a bunch of developers that worked on like Tulip. So that sent me on another.
Yeah.
Oh man, Tulip.
Yeah. Good old Tulip.
I have said it before. I'll say it again. That is the weirdest game I've ever played. And I've played some very weird games.
Man, the 64 DD went out like before the end of the N64 era. Even like there were plenty of games that were kind of quit development on that and tried to move over to the N64, just like the basic platform. I believe Earthbound was even one of those games. I think whenever that crashed, they tried to just develop it for the N64 itself.
Yeah, that was kind of like the first bump on the road for Earthbound as a sequel.
Yeah, it'd be really difficult to do.
Yeah. I have in here Jade Empire 2. I don't know if y'all have ever looked into this at all. I love Jade Empire, the first one. They were working on a sequel. It was going to be really interesting because, the first Jade Empire, it's a BioWare game, really popular, sort of like this, ancient, sort of setting, a lot of mysticism and magic and stuff. And it's great. That is probably, besides like the Mass Effect trilogy, I guess, which I also really love, it's probably my favorite of the like old BioWare games personally. I like it more than KOTOR. But anyway, it's great. And they were working on a sequel. And it was actually going to be like the setup for it was interesting because it was going to be far like into the future of that sort of universe. And they had this idea. It was like it was actually picking up from like the bad ending of Jade Empire was going to be like the canonical one. And it's set, in motion, going like hundreds of years in the future, like cyberpunk kind of vibes for Jade Empire 2. Man. In a world where magic exists, but it's now illegal. It's now like you can't taboo. Just go about. Yeah, it was like a taboo. You can't freely like use it and stuff. And it would have been interesting. And there's a bunch of like screenshots and concept art. They were like fairly far along. It was called like Project Revolver at a certain point, and they like morphed it into another game when Jade Empire 2 like clearly wasn't going to be a thing. And some of those ideas and concepts probably wound up in Mass Effect. But yeah, it's just, I would have really liked to see that universe continue, or even just like Jade Empire in general. I just think is such a neat, a really neat like story and world setup. I just would have liked to see more from that.
So was that sequel canned due to development of KOTOR? Was that like in that same time frame, or was it?
Well, KOTOR came out first.
Yeah, they actually dumped KOTOR 2 on Obsidian so that they could make Jade Empire.
Yeah,
the first one.
That's right.
Yeah, and then Jade Empire comes out, and then they're working on Jade Empire 2, and I think they were kind of like, because I think that era of BioWare is interesting because that's when they were kind of like expanding, quite a lot, and I think they had a lot of irons in the fire, and I think Jade Empire 2 just sort of got cast to the wayside. But yeah, I would have really liked to see that universe continue.
Yeah, one more I wanted to shout out real quick that I stumbled across that was canceled for the Wii, something called Project Hammer, which was set to be a beat-em-up set in the future USA, playing as a robot with a giant hammer, using motion controls to hammer things, and intended to integrate Wii Motion Plus at some point. Which evidently the reason it was canceled was largely due to internal conflict in the team. There were apparently mismanaged after they switched managers, the new manager had several accusations against him, and the team was very low in morale, and everything just kind of fell apart from there.
It's always unfortunate.
Well, and it too, it's always like some of these, like, it was canceled because it just, they couldn't make it work on the hardware, or, ran out of money or something, but like,
yeah.
Or they just realized like the game it sounded like a good idea, but in the end, there wasn't enough there, to act on. But you hate to see something fall apart just because of people being nasty.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I wonder if that's why they started up Project Giant Robot for the Wii U, was to give a robot to the giant hammer, a bigger robot.
Maybe.
Yeah. Would like to see that too. Yeah. Oh man. It's interesting to think about too, because like these are the ones that like we know of. Mm-hmm. Like this is the stuff that was like publicly, sort of announced or talked about in some capacity. Like think of the, dozens, if not hundreds of games that are quietly canceled and never brought to light. It's interesting.
Especially for Nintendo. They're like pretty closed door on a lot of things until it gets pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays, they're not going to announce anything unless it's pretty much done.
Yeah, unless you're talking about the what is the like internal documentation, like the untitled Super Mario Universe game starring Princess Peach or whatever it's called.
Or Prime 4.
Yeah. It's true.
Might be the exception.
Well, and like,
which I mean,
that's the thing. Like, you announce a logo, and people lose their minds, and they'll say Nintendo won E3 because they announced Prime 4. But here we are, all these years later.
Yeah, don't talk about Elder Scrolls 6 announced in like 2018. Our grandkids will be playing it.
Oh man, that's another one with Elder Scrolls games. Like, they're taking so long to develop now. It's And then when they do come out, like they're not even ready to play. Like everyone's play testing them when they come out.
They knew, like Prime 4, I get it. They had to scrap development, like give it to a new studio and everything else. So like, I can understand like why Prime 4 has taken so long, but they knew what they were doing with Elder Scrolls 6. Like they literally, when they announced it, they're like, this won't come out for a long time, but here's a logo and here's a little teaser. So like, why do it?
Because I think Square Enix is the one that's been doing that forever. So it's probably where they got it from.
I just don't even understand like what the benefit of it is. Because like, yeah, you get like a little like groundswell of hype at that E3 or whatever, but then now it's all anybody's going to ask you about until the game's done.
How long was it before we got the first part of Final Fantasy VII Remake from the time that they announced it?
Yeah,
everybody's like, is it coming?
Just don't even do it, man. Just, so I admire like the tact that like for everybody, because now what ends up happening is, now that everybody's like doing these like this like weird fake leak culture and stuff, and is this going to get announced? Is that going to get announced? But to Nintendo's credit, like they have in recent years been quite good about, with the exception of something like Prime 4, they've been pretty good about staying quiet about stuff until it's like more or less ready to go.
Oh yeah, I think they've learned because I don't know, the last 20 titles have come out, have been announced like 2 months before they release, it seems like.
Yeah. So I prefer that to things being canceled.
Yes. So one platform we haven't touched on that did have a lot of canceled games for it is the Virtual Boy. A lot of these that are known seem to be either ports or just very sparse. Like, yeah, they were working on like an F-Zero spinoff for it, and we don't know much more than that. But there's a couple oddball ones in here. There's a game called Dragon Hopper, which looks to be some kind of like action adventure, almost Zelda-like fantasy adventure game, developed by Intelligent Systems. The one that catches my eye, just because I see some screenshots of it here, is a game called Virtual Jockey. No relation to Pocket Card Jockey, I don't think.
Unfortunately,
but it's a horse riding game, and there is a screenshot of a cartoon horse. This has helpfully been translated for me from the Japanese, and the horse is saying, "So you want to ride on my back? Ha! Don't come back for another 100 years." I don't even know what this game is, but I kind of want to play the finished version of it.
Very good.
Nice.
Don't come back for another 100 years. Horse racing's like a thing in Japan. I'm surprised there's not more.
If you ever, usually when I go to game stores that have imports, they'll have like giant stacks of those like unreleased outside Japan like horse racing gambling simulator Super Nintendo games. It's like a whole series. There's like 8 of them on the Super Nintendo.
Dude, look at this horse. I'm looking at the screenshot you're talking about, Sam.
I know.
He's like an angsty looking horse.
He's like got giving you the evil eye while he's doing it.
Hair in the eyes. Like a kind of emo looking horse a little bit.
Emo horse.
It's pretty good. I want to play this. Oh, man. Now I'm just sad. All these games we don't get to play. All these good games.
I know, and this is just part 1.
Or at least our idea of them is that they would be good games.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any others you just gotta give a mention. But we're probably running out of time. Like I said, we'll come back for a part 2. I don't know if Seth will be here. We'll even bring Seth back for part 2 if you want us to do that.
If you want me to,
But
I'll come back anytime y'all want.
If you guys have some games you remember being excited for that were canceled, or games you know about that were canceled, let us know, and we will share them on next week's Community Couch. Next episode's Community Couch. It's more than a week away. It's worth the wait.
Yes,
I'm telling you,
worth the wait.
If you're just absolutely gobsmacked that we did not talk about Dueling Fireman for the 3DO, tell us all about that, because I don't know. You guys should probably look up Dueling Fireman for the 3DO. It's crazy.
The Dueling Fireman fans, the super fans, are going to come out in droves.
Right.
Or if you're wondering where we Karaoke You is, I mean, honestly, that's one that's more like, how did that not just get released? Like, that's probably a game that takes zero effort, but
how is that not a thing? Especially when you look at like the design ethos of something like 1-2-Switch or Everybody 1-2-Switch, where like, you gotta imagine they spent like $100,000 making that or something. You just, it's like it seems like a sure thing, especially. You could just tether that to the Nintendo Switch Online app or whatever and like sing into your phone's microphone and call it a day. Karaoke, So I'd love that. I love karaoke. I would love any kind of like good karaoke game on Switch.
Well, I mean, it was the default like thing when they were showing off the Wii U, was they show that and all the commercials that were admittedly ineffective at explaining what the Wii U was, but they'd usually show karaoke, and then they never released that game.
Yeah. Oh well. Pour one out.
But speaking of the Community Couch, we do have one question for this week. It comes to us from Presto, going off of a conversation in the Discord. Why is Walmart the worst store, and what is the best store?
Walmart's the worst store?
That's what he says. I didn't say that.
Just as a generalization?
Presto said that.
I think Dan would agree with this as well.
Yeah.
I think Walmart gets a lot more crap than, I don't even know if it necessarily doesn't deserve the crap that it gets, but it gets so much more crap than other stores that are equally bad.
Right. Yeah, I think that's where I come at it with, is like, like, sure, Walmart's probably not great. And I understand the whole point about like they crop up in these towns and, you know, small businesses can't compete or whatever. But like that's the case with, yeah, like you said, Sam, with a lot of different stores. You know, are they necessarily worse than anything else?
And they weren't the first to do that.
Right. So I don't know. But it's also like, does he mean in terms of like getting video games? If we're talking about video games, then
I think
like
just in general,
I can think of worse.
But yeah, Walmart's not the worst place to get video games, actually.
No, I don't think so.
They
either.
often cut their rates a little bit more than other places will.
Yeah,
they used to be better. There for a while, you're always like almost guaranteed $10 off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
or they would do like a promotion often where it was like, hey, you get like a $10 or $15 gift card or whatever if you.
But I mean, honestly, and this is gonna get our podcast burned to the ground. But I made this observation the other day. People will praise Buc-ee's to high heaven. Buc-ee's is basically a Walmart with more gas pumps, people. And the same people who hate on Walmart will be like, Buc-ee's is the greatest thing to ever happen to the United States of America.
You're right.
Hey.
Now, don't get me wrong. It is, but it's just as bad in terms of being a huge evil corporation or whatever that takes over.
Well, I'm just saying, in terms of the overall experience, it's a giant store that sells everything.
Yeah.
It's basically Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, effectively. If you live near a Buc-ee's, you're set.
115 gas pumps.
Yep.
Dude, I would hate to work at a Buc-ee's. I would hate. They pay their employees well, and they do because I would hate to work there.
I'm pretty sure Buc-ee's managers make more money than I do.
Yeah, they make just great.
The car wash manager makes more money than we do.
Yeah, like they should, because like that has got. I managed a Circle K for many years, and just that sucked. I can't imagine managing a Buc-ee's. Like, no, thank you. That sounds terrible. So,
but everybody loves them.
They do.
Until they don't.
Yeah. I mean, it is worth the stop for the spectacle of it all. Go in, get yourself some beaver nuggets, and have a good time. Yeah.
So what's the best store then?
Buc-ee's. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, of course.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, like, when it comes to video games specifically, like, I would much rather go to like a local game store most of the time. Sometimes those are hit or miss too. But when it comes to like general purpose stores, what's the best store? I don't know, man.
I mean, that's the thing. Retail is retail. About stores. Like, it's to me, all I really want is efficiency. I'm not looking to hang out. I'm not looking to make friends. I'm just like, get me in and out of there fast and get me a good deal. And that's why these big box stores take over, because they can undercut prices on other people. They
provide so much more too. Especially, when they first started coming around, and you had so many more specialized stores. I mean, today, how could a Radio Shack even exist? You can go to anywhere and get almost all the same things.
I miss that though. Those days of like specialized stores like a Radio Shack or a Circuit City or something like that.
Yep.
I do kind of miss that. Yeah. Have y'all ever been to one of those, like in the underdeveloped, kind of areas that'll open up? I think it's called like Walmart Local Market or something like that. Like very small Walmarts that are like.
We have a bunch of neighborhood markets
what it is
in my city. That it's mainly groceries.
Right. Yeah. It's like groceries, produce, that sort of thing. And I kind of dig that experience, because it's like just, it's just small, like Sam said, you get your essentials, you're in and you're out, know. They had, I don't think it's still going on, but up in like Seattle, Amazon had a store that was completely like automated. Like you go in, you get what you want, it detects like your phone or whatever, and like you don't even take it to a register, you just grab what you want, and when you leave, it charges you for whatever it is that you got, you know? So, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I don't have strong store opinions. Kroger, I guess. Target, maybe. I don't know. They all suck.
I mean, that's
if
the thing.
My wife answering this question, it would be Target.
These large scale places succeed at offering the lowest price, not the highest quality.
Yeah.
If you want high quality, you're better off going for an artisanal approach, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for your local farmers market organic produce. You're going to pay for your, handcrafted furniture made by an Amish guy. You're going to pay for that difference. And sometimes you just want the cheap stuff.
Man. Yeah.
And I worked at a Kroger one time, so I can vouch that is not the best store.
Fair. Yeah. And I worked for GameStop for many years, so I also have to although you know what, I do have an appreciation for GameStop for what it's worth. Like, just for me as a person, like I learned so much about like myself working there. I kind of came out of my shell working there. It was my first like retail job. I got to really kind of learn how to talk to people, look at people in the eye, that sort of thing. So I'm always going to have a little bit of fondness for GameStop because of my personal attachment to it. But as a store, it's pretty rough. Let's be real. It's pretty rough.
I mean, it used to be better. And
they used to sell games instead of
growing
Funko
up.
Pops.
Yeah.
Funko Pops and shirts and statues.
Growing up where I did, we didn't have a game store. So, I mean, like the only place I could buy games in my own town was a Walmart.
Right.
Which was, or sometimes Kmart or something like that. But, a town that was like an hour and a half away had a mall, and it had a Babbage's in it, which would become GameStop later.
Mm-hmm.
And it, being a kid, this was like the ultimate experience.
Oh, going to Best Buy games. Back when they had the giant TVs up in the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
And this is back when TVs were weighed a ton if they were like big, the size of your head. That was incredible. You could see what somebody was playing really a demo of on the other side of the store.
Do you guys remember whenever Best Buy tried to like bring music instruments in for a period of time?
Yeah, it was like that, and like Hastings did the same thing.
Yep.
At a certain point, they had like musical instruments and stuff.
Hastings basically became GameStop before GameStop did. It was all collectibles and like hodgepodge of comics and music instruments and graphic novel. Like they had the whole gamut there for sure.
Yeah, I think about like FYE and Suncoast Video.
Yep.
Borders
and there was a bunch of good ones back then. They're all gone now though. Somehow the only one that survived was Barnes and Noble, and it's mostly just books.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble and Books A Million are still kicking.
Yeah.
After all this time, every time I go in there for one reason or another, there might be one or two other people in there, and I'm like, how is this business still afloat? Like, I don't understand.
It has to be their online infrastructure is still hanging them in.
Maybe.
Because I agree. Every time I've ever went to Barnes and Noble, it's because I wanted a book that day, and I didn't want to wait for shipping. But then most of the time I'll go in there and they don't have the book, and like you said, there's not anybody in there. Like, it's just an open store with nothing going on.
And I feel like it's almost a corollary to, I guess, like retro gamers or even like music fans collecting vinyl. Like, getting a physical book is almost like a vintage retro sort of thing at this point. Like the passionate
books went digital
people.
Way before games did even.
Totally. Yeah, so that's interesting to me. I've never really thought about it that way, but I have to imagine that the average person is either listening to their books or reading it on their Kindle or whatever, and it's like the passionate book readers who want the tactile turning of the pages and put it on their shelf.
Yes and no, because you do have a. I think the book reading audience also, you do have a larger segment that is old enough that they are not familiar with the technology.
Yeah,
That's
but
probably true.
it's so much easier to go to a digital book format than, in my opinion, than it is for me to let go of my physical game collection. Like my mom would read books physically for forever, and then I bought her a Kindle, and now it's like that's all she does. Like
Yeah.
once I explain how it works, and that she can just go to a digital bookstore and she can get what she wants, and she doesn't have to wait for it to show up or go pick it up.
Yeah.
There's just more appeal to it, but and even like I said, Amazon was like that's how they got started. They were a bookstore that would ship you books.
Yep.
It's interesting, man. I don't know how we got on this topic, but it's interesting. Presto talking about stores.
Talking about stores.
Presto got us going.
A lot more conversation out of that than I thought we'd get. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Seth. I'll give you some time to just tell people all about All In, Carpool Gaming, Keep Nintendo Weird, anything else you want to promote.
There's a lot. I'll try to be brief. I do a lot of things. Yeah, All In. If y'all listen to this, you probably are familiar with a lot of my stuff. All In, a Nintendo podcast, All In Media. If you like Nintendo, we do a weekly variety podcast. My co-host Eric and I, that we've been doing that for about 3.5 years now. So check that out. Do stuff on YouTube under All In Media. We're always showing off indie games on the Nintendo Switch. So if you like Nintendo Switch games, that's the place to be there. Carpool Gaming. I'm one of the hosts of the Nintendo Drive over there, which is kind of like we call it the Seinfeld of podcasts. It's the show about nothing. We just kind of hang out and, talk about Nintendo. Do a lot of stuff for Carpool Gaming's video content on YouTube as well. Keep Nintendo Weird is a weird Nintendo podcast about weird Nintendo games, sporadically updated as I have time.
Yeah, when are we doing that Dokapon really Kingdom episode?
Yeah, we need to do that, man. Yeah, Sam and I that's on the docket, man.
I still need to play it.
Yeah. We got to get you in.
I think we just need to immediately play Dokapon Kingdom when we end this podcast. Right now.
Right after
you don't need to sleep tonight.
Forget sleep. We're playing Dokapon Kingdom, baby. But that's pretty much it. I appreciate it. I always love coming on and hanging out with y'all.
All right. Once again, that is the All In Podcast. That is Alpha Lima Lima November. Sometimes people don't catch up that it is a capital letter N there. So
yes, it is the letter N. I appreciate that.
Always appreciate having you on. And that is a wrap on this episode. Once again, hop on our Discord to the community couch section. Tell us all about any other canceled games that you want to bring to our attention, and we will touch on them in part 2. With that, have a good night. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.